What's going on, guys? It's Pete Nova from the Face Off Sports Network. I'm with Anthony Servino, and we are back to do something a little bit different today. We're going to talk some NFL betting picks as well as our favorite EV plays for the NFL week. It is Wednesday. We have maybe some plays for Thursday night, as well as to get you ready for Sunday. Some look aheads at some good value that we see on the board. We are also rolling out a new partner with Be Better. If you're not familiar, we did drop the link in the description as well as in the comment sections. But yeah, I mean, Be Better essentially they help you build, execute, and track your sports betting strategies. They help you provide plus EV plays. They give you EV notifications on your phone to push it out to you so you can get on them at good value. Custom sports betting weightings as well. They provide line movement charts, odd screens, as well as helping track your bets. So we're pretty excited. The promo code FFSN down below will get you your first month at $7. So it's a pretty good promotion we're running now. We're going to show you the screen today, and me and Anthony are going to kind of give you the setup as to what they provide, as well as talk a little fantasy football in between and answer some of your questions about the promotion, as well as sports betting, and answer some fantasy football questions because we know it is the last week of the regular season leading up to the playoffs. Anthony, you got anything else to add?
No, looking forward to it. I know both of us, and even Steve Hawk, we all bet here, and we want to start integrating more sports betting content. And eventually, we're going to have a premium Discord for all of our plays. So a few things to look forward to as we get closer to the off season.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna go ahead and send the link in the chat just one more time. I see Albert is here in the chat. I'm gonna send you the link if you guys want to take a look. That is the link to our promo code as well as to the Be Better app. You can also get it on your phone as well as desktop version. But let's just jump right into it. I'm gonna pull up the screen here really quick, and we're gonna look at some EV plays. And then once we're done, we're gonna start looking at some of our favorite plays that Anthony identifies that he thinks might be good plays going into this week. So give me 1 second. I'm setting up the screen here. And yeah, so if you take a look at the app, once you log in, they give you the Hive is what they call it, which gives you a list of you. If you could sort by any league pretty much here, they have, NCAA basketball, college football, they have player props, MLS, EPL. We're going to just look at NFL today. But pretty much if you're unfamiliar with EV, essentially it's what a book is giving you based on what they think is fair value. So right here is a good example of Drew Lock, right? So we're going to take a look here. Drew Lock, did he score a touchdown, Anthony, last week?
Yeah, he did. He got a late touchdown against the Dallas.
Late
Thanksgiving.
touchdown against Dallas. Okay. So, I mean, he scored a touchdown and he almost scored a touchdown early in the game, too. He went to the pylon and then they called it back, right? So, we'll look here. Bet365 has him at plus 700. Pinnacle has him at plus 197. Pinnacle and Fliff are sharp books. It's where the professionals bet. And Pinnacle having him at plus 397. You see him here at plus 700, and that's pretty good value. They have it at plus 536 at fair value. So 25% EV here. So we're possibly looking at maybe Drew Lock. Is that worth a sprinkle to you, Anthony?
Yeah, I think so. The Saints are a good matchup. They're obviously, like the Giants, a reeling team overall. I always get this sense, and I don't have anything documented. I have to go and look, but it seems like these bad offenses, like how many times have we seen Trevor Lawrence? He had a little bit of a run where he's running these touchdowns in almost every game, or we see a backup quarterback come in and instead of, they're in the red zone. It doesn't happen much. We're inside the 5. All of a sudden, they're just running for touchdowns. And I think that's where we're going to get a little bit out of Drew Lock just to try to get some points. And I think this is something that I want to start paying attention to with substitution quarterbacks anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, and you made a good point the other day. I mean, it just seems like a lot of backup quarterbacks tend to run the football into the end zone. Jamie said, "What's going on?" What's up, Jamie? We do have a question from Hustlin' Bruce, so let's grab him real quick. He said, "Good evening. Would you trade Jameis Winston and a mid 2025 third for Trey Benson in a super flex?" Um, yeah, I mean, I think it depends on what you have at the quarterback position. I think that's a fair value, though. We don't really know what Winston's future holds. If you're not a contender and you don't need Winston this year and you have a good quarterback room, I think that's a pretty solid value because I think Trey Benson's probably still worth a mid two right now.
Yeah. Now the thing is here, we thought because they drafted Benson, Connor was expected to be a free agent. They just extended James Conner. So it does that worry me a little bit for the future of Trey Benson. Like I get Connor's 29 years old, but this season, how many Asian running backs are having outstanding years, including Connor? But this is a good enough price. Like Winston, we don't even know if this guy's going to be a starter next year, and he hasn't been. And then you're giving up a late 2025 third. Like I don't mind it for Trey Benson.
Yeah. I mean, is there a possibility that you could get more for Jameis Winston? Maybe. You might be able to get a second for Jameis Winston in many leagues, especially if it's a contender. So, yeah, I mean, there's a possibility you could get more value here. But, I mean, if you're not a contender, you do run the risk that Winston is a backup next year and maybe he gets some spot starts somewhere else. I don't really know what to expect with Winston.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's a bad deal at all. Zach Linton's in the house, said, "Yo, what's going on, Zach?" And Jamie said, "I have to start Drew Lock in the, I'm assuming, Scott Fishbowl because of these buys." Yeah, I mean, the buys have been absolutely brutal. So I'm there with you. It's been tough. But all right, let's move back to the betting screen here. And let's take a look at some other props that we have on the screen just to give you an idea. I like Juwan Jennings. This is an interesting one. DeAndre Swift at plus 140. It's 8% EV here. They think plus 122 is fair value. This is kind of interesting because San Francisco has been really favorable. I think they've given up 12 or 14 touchdowns to the running back position this year. Pinnacle, which again, I always like to look at Pinnacle and their odds. Pinnacle has them at plus 110. So almost even value. So to be getting him at plus 140, I kind of like that. And Fliff has him at minus 105, Caesars minus 105. That's a pretty good value there. Any thoughts there? Any lean?
I don't like Swift has kind of been on a cold spell as this team is getting better at throwing the football. But we saw Swift earlier this season. He was reliable on a week in, week out basis. Plus 140 for DeAndre Swift. He's the number one running back here. This 49ers defense, they're hard to trust right now. If there is anything inside the five, like this is worth a sprinkle just on the odds alone, because there were times this season, Swift was closer to plus 100.
Okay.
So I
Yeah.
don't love it because I just don't trust that running game right now, but the value is there, especially at Bet 365.
Yeah, absolutely. And we didn't really show it, but essentially there's also, you go into your settings, and so we just set it at like 200 for the bankroll, right? So you can essentially set whatever your bankroll in your books are, maybe across all books. Say you have, we're just going to say $200. We're rolling it off of based on one unit, right? And so pretty much the suggestion from them would be, if you have $200, they feel comfortable putting down $11, which essentially would be pretty solid. I mean, based on your book, that's about 5% of what you have in your book. That's how confident they feel. So, yeah, I
Now,
mean, that one's interesting.
now for what it's worth, they've given up, I think, 12 rushing touchdowns since week 7. The 49ers.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
a hell of a lot. I don't think they were giving it. Maybe they didn't give up a ton because I think they have given up 14 on the year, right?
It looks like 14
And we're
rushing and
talking
then
rushing.
two receiving.
Yeah, we're just
So
talking rushing, not even accounting for the
yeah.
receiving work too. So, okay. All right, so let's scroll down. Any interest here? Jawan Jennings, I know, is at plus 250. You have, the secondary has been pretty stingy though. Any interest there?
Minimal, if
Yeah,
any, on Juwan. The matchup is too tough.
yeah,
And I can see this 49ers team really leaning on Garendo. And how much do we trust Brock Purdy right now against a good secondary?
that's fair.
Like Bears are kind of shut down right now when
Yeah,
it comes to throwing the football.
yeah,
I
that's
don't,
fair.
like you would think that the 49ers are going to have to lean on their ground game, particularly in this matchup.
Okay. Um, Now, I see Drake London here on the board, and I think that's somebody that you like
Yes.
this week, right? He's here at 6.88% EV. From a if bet size standpoints, the recommended would be $7 if you're working with a $200 bankroll. Fair value they have it at plus 169. Now that's the fair value, but if we look at the full card and we look at where the other books have this. Fliff has this at plus 130. FanDuel has at plus 160. I mean, you're getting a decent amount of odds here. You're getting $2 on every $10 bet more at Bet365 than you do at ESPN Bet. $4 compared to Pinnacle if you put down a $10 bet. So a solid value here. Any lean? I mean, is there a reason? I mean, I know Cousins is playing, his old team. Do you
No,
like Cousins this week too, or is it just a Drake London thing?
it's the revenge
Yeah.
game. Um, Minnesota's dead last when it comes to, because betting and fantasies intertwine. So if they're giving up a ton of fantasy production, they're number 32. They're gonna give up touchdowns, right? There's a high probability that these receivers are scoring. Now, London has not scored in 3 weeks,
Mm,
but he also had, and last week was a disaster. He had 3 red zone targets last week.
yeah.
So the opportunity was there, and he's had 6 total red zone targets in his past 3 games. Nothing against Denver, but 3 against New Orleans, 3 last week. So he's getting used where we want him to be used, and the matchup is lining up against Minnesota. I'm pulling up Minnesota now. They've been gashed by wide receivers. This is a good defense. They stop the run, but they give up so much production to the wide receiver position. They've given up this year 14 touchdowns to the wide receiver position, and then 3 in their past 2 games, 2 to, one to DJ Moore, 1 to Keenan Allen, and last week to Marvin Harrison Jr. So we're looking at the wide receiver ones in back-to-back games finding the end zone.
Yeah. Albert brings up a good point. He said Kirk Cousins hasn't thrown a touchdown pass in 3 games. And then I see Tyler Marsh's question. We'll get to that in a second. Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, I get a lot of questions about even the Vikings defense. The Falcons have given up a lot of points to opposing fantasy defenses, Denver and the Chargers the last 2 weeks. And this is also the Falcons who I I believe were coming off of a bye and got smacked around last week. But I also think the revenge game narrative, I understand. Sometimes I buy in, sometimes I don't. Kirk Cousins, it's not even just about the revenge game. It's about the nipping on your heels. Michael Penix, the whispers, the chatter. Should they put him in? Should they not put him in? Like that plays a factor. And Cousins has let this team down. And this is a team that's trying to make a push for the playoffs. And the Bucks are now tied with them at 6-6.
Yeah, right now
So
the Falcons own the tiebreaker right now because of those 2 wins. But
yeah,
the Falcons cannot keep losing football games because the Buccaneers right now they're a well balanced team. They can run the ball now. I don't know if this is a must win, but we're getting close to that must win category for the Falcons.
well, and the Bucks have a really soft schedule going
Yep.
forward. So Tyler Marsh coming in said Rico Dowdle, Christian Watson, or Sterling Shepard if Evans doesn't play. I don't think Evans is not going to play. It's probably just load management right now, and I know Anthony can probably take a
Yeah.
look into that. But I like Rico Dowdle. He said full PPR in a flex spot. He just sent that in as well. I like Rico Dowdle this week. I think he's my RB like 21. I think he is a a low to mid RB2 right now, and I don't hate him this week. I can't rely on Sterling Shepard in in the last week to get to the playoffs, and Christian Watson, no Romeo Dobbs in a game
Mm.
that looks like it could be a shootout. So there is some interest there, but this wide receiver group has been inconsistent.
Yeah, now the concern with Evans is that it's the hamstring. So there is a concern that he re aggravated that injury that kept him out. And there's also a calf issue. So they held him out still quite a few days before. So if he logs a couple limited practices or play or practice on a Friday, we're probably looking at him trending in the right direction. But it's the Raiders. This is a tougher matchup than people think. I think this is going to be a heavy Bucky Irving game. But like obviously, I don't think I'm comfortable sitting Mike Evans per se, but I'm not. I'm certainly not. I mean, if he doesn't play, I'm not comfortable starting Sterling Shepard. I mean,
Yeah,
I would
me
probably
neither.
go Rico here as well against Cincinnati.
Yeah. I mean, you figure there should be a lot of points in that Cincinnati game too. So, yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see. We still got people here. If you guys have questions, I just see Nino, and this is actually a good question. Anthony, why don't you pull? I'm going to pull this question. He actually asked Montgomery's over 14 and a half receiving yards. Me and Anthony were just talking about this.
Yeah,
Anthony's going to pull that up, and I'm going to pull up the odds screen as well. But yeah, I mean, Anthony has some stats that he can kind of rely on, and while he pulls that up, I'm going to pull up David Montgomery. But the one thing about David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, just from a fantasy perspective, is they've almost been like matchup proof. You know, they've. I mean, even the tough matchups, it seems like they they still come up big in those matchups. By the way, this is also how the screen works, especially on the mobile app. Like you can have all the books here and you'll have the odds like, 19 and a half. This is this is my favorite part of the tool is as you start to go up, you start to see the discrepancies in books. And that's where you can really find the best value. You look at Fanatics at plus 155, you have Bet365 at plus 140. So, and we talked 14 and a half. FanDuel has it at minus 113 here, and all the other books don't even offer that line, at least as of today. Any thoughts on this prop?
yeah. David Montgomery has hit 14 and a half receiving yards in each of his past 5 games, in 8 out of 10 and 9 out of 15, and also versus Green Bay in 2 out of his past 3 games. That's a 67% hit rate.
Yeah, I wanted to say I feel like I don't know Green Bay. I think they give around 14 receptions a game to running backs. That's the only worry for me is with Gibbs catching a lot of passes too. Gibbs actually hasn't been catching a ton of passes, but he can get receiving work, and it's a split backfield. I don't hate this. Um, would you fade this or would you take this? I guess that would
I
be my
think, I
question.
mean, with his recent hit rate, what did I say? He's 5 for 5 in his past 5 games and last 8 out of 10. That's pretty strong. And like last week, he had 3 for 36. The week before, 3 for 36, 3 for 20, 1 for 24, 3 for 23. He doesn't need a lot of opportunity to hit this because it seems like he's breaking like one big screenplay a game.
Yeah,
If you're
yeah.
watching these games, like you'll see he's breaking big plays as a receiver.
Yeah, and especially in the screen game, this is a good offensive line that can get out there and kick out and block.
Yeah.
So that's also a benefit to him. Nino said, totally agree. Do you think the Decker injury news hurts this line, or is it even more chance of dump offs? I don't know that it increases the chances of dump offs. Losing Decker is obviously going to be a hit on this line, but they've dealt with some injuries, and for whatever reason, they just seem to be a really cohesive group. And they've been able to bounce back off of some injuries. So I wouldn't change my take on this prop based on that injury. I think that's the best way to put it. Now, while we're here, we're going to continue to go into some bets. Drop your questions down below about fantasy. We're still answering those questions. We just answered Tyler. We answered a couple questions before. So, yeah, drop your questions. We're still here answering questions. Is there anything specific, Anthony? And I see Mo Bobbin just sent a question. So, while we get to that, I'm going to pull his question up. And then is there other specific leans I want you to keep in mind? Any leans, any specific plays that you like, and then we can pull up the charts and take a look.
Using that the be better tools, and these are outstanding. It identifies not only touchdown scores, all different type of props, but also sides and totals. And one total that I'm on is over 46 and a half in the Seattle visiting Arizona. Now, a few weeks ago, obviously these two teams played, and the game script did not go the way I thought it would go, because normally these are higher scoring games. But this game's being played in Arizona. I think that favors a higher total. Seattle's a tough place to play, especially for a visiting team. And I think being at home, we're going to see this Cardinals offense get going a little bit. I'm actually pulling up some of the information I have on this matchup now. And Kyler at home against Seattle, normally electric. So yeah, I'm going to take the over in this game. I think there's going to be some points here.
Okay. Yeah, I was trying to look. I couldn't grab it in time, but yeah, we'll keep that in mind.
And then what is
As
that?
we
46 and a half.
think it's 46 and a half. Yeah.
So so 3 out of the past 4 home games, we saw totals of 52, 68, and then 72. So
Mm.
3 out of the last 4 games these two teams have played in Arizona smashed that over.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. There's a lot of different totals, first quarter totals, a lot of different EV that they put out here that I'm just taking a look at as well. But like I said, keep in mind, see if there's anything that pops out to you, and I will jump into our next question here from Mo Bob and said, Stafford, Gino, or Caleb this week. And then he sent the second question, and we'll get to GOAT as well. Yeah, I mean, Stafford, Stafford gets the Rams have I don't have the schedule in front of me. I hate not having the schedule in front of me. Who do the Rams play? The
So we
Rams
have the
play
Buffalo.
Buffalo. Buffalo. Rams play Buffalo. Caleb, I mean, 49ers, it's
Bears
really
play.
interesting. We have to see. I'm not starting Geno this week. I will say that. Last time he played against Arizona this year in Seattle was sacked 5 times. It was a really messy game, and that offense has been messy. It would be between Stafford and Caleb for me. I believe Stafford's at home, which is important to me. I don't know if that's important to you, but they're going to be in warm weather. It'll be in a dome. Caleb is interesting. I think Caleb provides the highest upside here, but he provides probably the highest risk too, potentially. But he's rushing the football. It's really about, what does the 49ers secondary look like? Is Hufanga back? Is Nick Bosa back? Is Fred Warner playing? If those guys are healthy and playing, it might change my opinion on it. But I think Caleb's the highest upside. I think Stafford's the safest play, though.
Yeah, Gino, he hasn't had a good fantasy week since week 9 against the Rams. He's been under 20 quarterback points, turned the ball over a little bit. I don't know what's going on with DK Metcalf. Like, I do like JSN this week. But
Mm.
other than that, like, I don't love Seattle's offense. But again, like, there's probably going to be points in this game. But I see a lot of points coming on the side of Arizona. Because Arizona really needs to win. Seattle's on a little bit of a win streak. And if they're going to keep this, if they're going to keep their division winning hopes alive, Arizona needs to come out and win this game at home. I might just lean Caleb Williams. I'm worried. I get it's a home game for Matthew Stafford. Buffalo is playing really good football right now. They
Yeah.
have a lot of confidence. I just blew out the 49ers. And I get, like, it's not the same 49ers team, but it's the 49ers. And that's a team that year after year, they've been a dominant team in the NFL. And for Buffalo to just go out there and steamroll them, I think that's a big confidence thing for them.
Yeah, I can definitely get behind that for sure. I think Caleb was probably where I would
Yeah.
go to. Look, your week's on the line. Like, you can't play it safe, is what I would say, unless you're in a matchup where you're projected really high and maybe you get a really good start on Thursday night. Then maybe that changes what you do. But it's the last week. You don't want to go out with any regrets. Goat said Kirk Cousins is definitely throwing a touchdown this week. If it's not, Penix is in. Yeah, I think me and Anthony are both in agreement with that. That's why we like that Drake London prop.
I'm wondering, like, I don't know if the tool has it, but the over on touchdowns for Kirk Cousins probably going to be plus money, and I'll definitely be hammering that. Like, I think this is a nice bounce back spot for Kirk Cousins. It's in Minnesota. Even if it's an away game, he knows that stadium.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
think the crowd's going to hammer him either. I think he'll be welcomed back.
I would think. I mean,
He didn't leave on bad terms, and they're a winning team right now.
I agree. All right, Mobbin. I'm just gonna say Mobbin. Mobbin said pick 2 this week, full PPR. DJ Moore, Tyreek, Tyrone Tracy, Jaden Reed, JMO, and Mooney. Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I have to start DJ Moore, who's starting to heat up. There is risk with Tyrone Tracy, who has a fumbling issue right now, but he is getting an awesome matchup against the Saints. I think for now, my lean is probably DJ Moore, and it is Tyrone Tracy. Tyreek Hill had a nice week last week, but he goes up against the Jets. Um, I would prefer DJ and Tyrone. I could be swayed on Jaden Reed over DJ Moore. I think that would be the only swap I would consider.
DJ Moore is heating up. So, if I'm on Caleb, I think I'm also going to be on DJ Moore. Keenan Allen's also playing outstanding football. They've both been able to coexist. They're throwing the football enough. Caleb doesn't turn the ball over. So I think for me, it's going to be DJ Moore. He's going to be one of them. Tyreek's a tough pill to swallow. I get it's the Jets. I think this is a home game for Miami, and Tyreek is coming off a nice game. And the Giants, who the Giants play?
Giants have the Saints.
Giants have the Saints. So, I mean, a lot of these are good matchups, right? Like Jaden Reed with no doves in a good matchup against Detroit on Thursday night. Mooney's in a good matchup. So you have a lot of nice spots here. I might just, this might be the time of the year where I'm going to go DJ Moore and Tyreek. Like, start your studs. They're both slowly getting going. Like, Tyreek finally woke up a little bit last week, and I think this Jets defense, like, it's not the Jets team with Salah. I think they lost some of their, I don't know if they lost their heart, but they lost something when they fired him.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's move on. We have some more questions in the chat. I will get to you, Nino. I just want to remind you guys, we are partnering with Be Better. They are offering a promotion with the code FFSN. You get your first month for $7. Yeah, it's a pretty good deal considering it's normally $30 a month. If you like to sports bet, if you like EV plays, we're going to be continuing to use this tool as the NFL season winds down. We'll start to do NBA props. We'll start to do other sports as well. And so we're going to start using this tool a lot on the shows. And, it's a great tool and a great opportunity to jump in at a good time. So I think I'm gonna jump to the next question in just a second. I did want to pull up Jaden Reed. I was interested to see if they had anything on him specifically, and they did have a line, but it was his under, and it was at pretty decent EV. Jaden Reed under 59.5 receiving yards. I would be curious to know what he's done in terms of that total, how many times he's gone over. I don't have that in front of me. But
what is it, 59.5?
59.5 for Jaden Reed.
Well, just the last time these two teams played, he went for 113 yards, but in the other two career matchups, he's gone for 55 and then I think 34. So that's just his historical, his 3 career games. But then this season, I don't think he's hit this line a lot. Like, you remember the first few games of the year, he went over 138 yards receiving, and then he's only hit over 59.5 one more time. So he's hit it 4 times this year. 3 games over 100, 1 game with 78. Every other game has been below 50 yards, and a lot of them under 30.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, the craziest thing is it looks like this line on Bet365 opened up at plus 150, which is a cool thing about this app. It'll notify you. So when this line initially opened up, this Be Better will notify you and let you know. And it looks like probably like 6 minutes after it opened up. This was an hour ago, actually. So this wasn't even, these are actually the initial lines. I think with Romeo Dobbs getting ruled out, this is probably where the line movement started to happen. And so that's probably why, Bet365 was probably the last book to move after we just got that recent news of Romeo
Mm.
Dobbs being ruled out. All right. So let's go back and shift over to some of our fantasy questions. Nino coming in and said, wanting to get Bijan before the playoffs. I know it's a big ask, but I offered James Cook and B Rob and got countered with Cook and Chase Brown for Bijan Robinson. I actually think this is a really good deal for you as the Bijan Robinson owner. I mean, Chase Brown has been phenomenal. I think I like Chase Brown. I think he'll be used. He's not going away, but the Bengals know that they can't sustain this kind of offense on a week to week basis going forward. They need to bring in a real running back. And so Chase Brown will probably be a complementary piece in an offense that has a lot of weapons. So if they bring in a second guy, I think after this year, you're selling Chase Brown at his highest value. I think it's good. If you're not contending, now that's the biggest question here. If you're contending, I prefer the Chase Brown and Cook side for the rest of this season. But if you're not contending or if you have the depth, I prefer the Bijan side pretty comfortably.
Yeah, I mean, Bijan, you're getting an elite running back. Even this year, when the Falcons' offense has been erratic, especially like the past 5-6 weeks, Bijan Robinson has been over 20 PPR points. I think in 5 or 6 straight games. You're giving up Cook. Cook is nice. Ray Davis isn't going away. Is there a world where Ray Davis is cutting into that workload, not only down the stretch this year, but next year? Who knows if they're going to keep Cook in Buffalo if Ray Davis really is this good? On the Chase Brown end, I think we're going to see two different directions. I think, yes, there's a chance that, hey, he can't sustain this. There's the size and durability concerns. Right now, he looks the part. I think he's only conceded like 1 or 2 touches in the past 3 games. If he keeps this up rest of season, I don't know if they're going to bring in a back to challenge him for the starting job. They rolled with Joe Mixon for years as the guy. So there's a world where Chase Brown, he's in the RB1 conversation next year as top 12 guy. There's also a world, like Pete said, where they do bring in a bigger back and it's going to be more of a split workload. So like selling him now is risky, but again, you're moving off these two players to upgrade to an elite running back who's going to be in his 3rd year next year. So I would do this move. Plus, the one back in this, like outside of Bijan, the one back, Brian Robinson. From what I've seen, this Washington offense runs through him, right? Like when B Rob isn't in there, this offense doesn't quite look right. He gets back. They put up 30 points and a half last week, and he's a big part of it. So and Eckler, he's not going to be around forever. B Rob's going to be the guy in this backfield, I think, for years to come.
Yeah.
And it being in that backfield with Jaden Daniels, I want to keep B Rob.
Yeah, I think long term I prefer him over Chase Brown for sure. Um, yeah, for sure. All right, so let's move on here. Basher said, "What's up, fellas?" He also said, "He said, what bets are you guys liking for the NBA tonight or NFL this week?" For NBA, I do like James Harden's under on his points at 25.5. I believe he's hit the under 8 out of his last 10 on this. I'd have to have the numbers up in front of me. I did give it out in my Discord. But as well as I do like the Magic to cover 5.5, I got it at -110 on FanDuel using the Be Better app, which is what we're using today. I got that a few hours ago. That line might have changed. And then from an NFL standpoint, we've talked a little bit already. Me and Anthony like Drew Lock. We did show our screen, but we liked Drew Lock here. The Be Better app flagged him down. He's plus 700 to score a rushing touchdown. He should have had two last week. And if you look
Yeah.
at Pinnacle and some of the sharper books, they have him at plus 197 and plus 340. So I think that's good odds. And Anthony really likes
Drake London.
Drake London, who's at plus 187 here on Bet365. And then we also talked about David Montgomery's over on his receiving yards at 14 and a half. All right, so let's get back to some more fantasy questions, and then we'll talk a little more betting. And we're here for a little bit longer. So,
What do you think of LeBron's threes tonight? I know he's close to setting the record for most threes missed. I don't see why. Like, I think that might be a sneaky play. I don't have his line in front of me, but if his line's like 1.5 at plus money, I'm probably going to sprinkle on it because I don't
yeah,
see a world where he's going to fucking set that record.
You don't see a world where he's not going to set the record, you mean?
Yeah, like I can't see him just continually missing threes. It's LeBron. I think he's going to figure it out.
Let me
Again, it's just a
see.
hunch. It's a gut feeling play.
Yeah, let me see
But
what his odds are. So at plus 1.5. So actually, in the last five, LeBron has only hit that one time.
mhm,
Um, and
yeah,
the team that he plays against tonight is 19th. Give up the 19th. So 19th in terms of they're an average matchup. They give up 2.85. He's going up against the Miami Heat tonight. But he is taking the shots. He's just
yeah,
hasn't been making them. So I don't think it's a bad bet. I mean, it's just a matter of this Lakers team has not really got going. But the cool thing is LeBron is fourth on the team in 3-point attempts, shooting
yeah.
16.2% of them, and Dalton Connect is third and just shooting 0.2% more. So it's pretty much basically third on the team for 3-pointers. So yeah, I don't hate that at all. And we'll probably do some more NBA stuff too, being that it's the fantasy playoffs. We're going to sprinkle some NBA in, and then once the NFL starts to wrap up, we do NFL playoffs, and we'll start to get into more basketball. We'll do a mixture of both. And that's kind of how we'll start to segue into the offseason while doing dynasty content and draft content. We got you guys covered here. Jamie said, is Brandon Cooks a sneaky start this week versus the Bengals secondary? He had 10 targets last week and he's only 15% owned.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, go
no,
ahead. Well, you got to keep in mind, CeeDee Lamb did miss, I think, maybe a quarter and a half of that game. So that's something to keep in mind. There's something with Cooper Rush, though. He just hyper targets on one guy. And we saw that with Lamb. I think it's a good flyer. I don't know how comfortable. It depends on what your matchups are. I don't know how comfortable I am rolling out Brandon Cooks. I'm not saying he can't be a solid flex play this week. I'm just saying that we haven't seen enough of him this year for me to take a risk going into the fantasy playoffs if my season's on the line. I don't know how you feel about
yeah.
it, but
I mean, I did use him in a sneaky start sleeper video on RotoWire today. And a lot of it, CD Lamb, number one, like you get this is by Mageddon. So there's going to be some people out there who might need to use Brandon Cooks because there's just, they have injuries. There's not a lot out there, and he's not bad. CD Lamb's nursing a shoulder injury. They were saying his early optimism for his week 14 status. So if he's a little bit banged up, are they really, is he going to be that hyper targeted dealing with the shoulder? I think Dallas is going to be looking towards next year. I think there's a world where CeeDee Lamb ends up on the shelf before the end of the season. But Cooks did have 7 targets, not 10 last week. Only 3 for 16, scores a touchdown, 10 PPR points. Like I'm expecting a floor game out of Brandon Cooks. They get Cincinnati. I'm expecting Cincinnati's offense to be able to put some points. We're going to get some garbage time from Dallas. So if you could do a lot worse than I think putting in like CeeDee Lamb Brandon Cooks or like one of whoever the Dallas starting tight end is, because Cooper Rush, talking about hyper targeting a position, he hyper targets the tight end. So whether it's Ferguson or Schoonmaker, I think they're going to be in play. I just see a lot of throwing opportunities. And a few weeks ago, when they played a really good offense in Philly blew it. I think Cooper Rush threw like over like 40, 50 times. Didn't really get much out of it, but that's an elite defense. Since he does not have an elite defense, so if Dallas is trailing, there's going to be production here.
Yeah. I'm with you. I just think it depends on your team. Again, I'm not saying that Cooks can't provide this week. I don't know how jacked up I am to start him. It just depends on your team. What I did want to say is I know we got an NBA question, and this game starts in 22 minutes, but I did want to show you one play that I actually did like a lot in the NBA. I know Basher asked what picks we had. Cade Cunningham at plus 275 for over 9.5 assists. So I like this play a lot. If you go to Prop Shark, which is free, Cade has actually hit this in 7 of his last 10. And from an assist standpoint, it is a tough matchup. They give up the sixth most, but at plus 275 for a guy that's hitting 4 out of his last 5 and 7 out of his last 10, I kind of like that. You might be able to sprinkle him down as well, but at plus 275, it's pretty good odds when you look at FanDuel has him at plus 190 as well. So I think that's good value, which was flagged here again by the Be Better app. That's 16% EV. So I think you could mark me down for throwing probably a 0.75 unit down on that play. And yeah, so moving on, let's see what else we got. And Anthony, if you see anything bets wise that you like, let me
Yeah, I was
know
gonna
and
say
I'll pull it
that
up.
the reason why that's a really nice value is his double doubles only plus 155.
Mm.
So playing the over on 9.5 assists is much better odds than actually playing his double double.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a fair point as well. Anthony gets into basketball once football starts to wind down a little bit
Yes.
more. Um
I
and
know my way around the NBA a little bit, but not during football season.
yeah, I you got to respect that. You know, the I'm sure the viewers appreciate that you're focused on what's important. All right, let's move on. Mobbin said, "Yeah, it's do or die week for me. I need to win the playoffs." Yeah, so I would go with Caleb if you really need that.
Yeah.
Zach Linton coming in and said, "Reed, Thielen, or Mooney." Adam Thielen's came on really strong. Adam Thielen and the Panthers, they get who do the Panthers play this week?
Philly.
Philly. That's a tough matchup. I don't think I'm starting Thielen in that matchup. Mooney, I could be talked into, but I prefer London. I think Jaden Reed is the start for me in this matchup. I feel pretty comfortable about that too.
Yeah, I don't mind Mooney. Again, I like this matchup for Atlanta. I think Kirk Cousins gets on track. This could be a nice shootout. But the safer play is probably Jaden Reed tomorrow night. But if you want a little bit more ceiling, it could be because Mooney has put up some big games this year. And
Mm.
my biggest worry with Jaden Reed is that even if there's Dubs missing, doesn't get a lot of volume. So it's either he's giving you touchdowns or like last week, what do you have? 2 touchdowns and under 30 yards again? So
Believe
yeah,
so,
3
yeah.
for 24 and 2. So that's my biggest worry. He has not had a game with more than 6 targets yet. So it's like he's probably safer. He has a great matchup too, but I don't know. That Atlanta Minnesota game is calling me for an over.
Okay. Fair enough. And then Jamie said, look what Reed did last time he faced the Lions. Not sure you want to sit that. Yeah, I totally get that. Goat said, in a 10-man, I am the 1 seed with the bye clinched. My running backs are Tyrone, Chase, Brown, Brees Hall, Jalen Warren, Gus Edwards, Braylon Allen. I'm considering dropping Edwards for Trey Benson. Yeah, I mean, I think your running backs are really strong. I think I would probably rather keep Edwards, to be completely honest with you, because there's a possibility that he is the starter, and I don't think you want to give ammo to another playoff team. Not to say I'm excited about Gus Edwards, but there is more of a clear path for him right now.
I don't know. That's what is Edwards? What is he giving us right now? At least Benson, like historically, James Conner does miss a few games. It hasn't happened yet. Not wishing injury on the guy, but Gus Edwards, he's either if he doesn't get you a touchdown, like I think he and Vidal combined for 10 touches last week.
Fair
Like
enough.
that's my biggest, yeah, he could get going, but are they going to give her any? Are they going to give him any opportunities?
Okay. So you're in agreement then?
I'd rather have Benson.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I just that Chargers offense right now is without Dobbins. It's kind of falling apart.
Yeah, I just worry. I'm not excited about Edwards. Don't get me wrong. And I know Benson's been getting more involved. I just don't want to give another
I get
team
it.
the possibility of having a starting running back.
I get it.
Um, you know, Jared Fortin said, "Oh, new profile picture, Austin 316. Look at that, Anthony."
Look at that.
Um, he said, "Do you think Brees gets shut down thinking of grabbing Allen?" Yes. Go grab Braylon Allen. They said they don't even know if Brees is going to play this week. I'm getting weird vibes on this. He looked like he hurt himself last week in the game, and we weren't even sure if he was going to play last week.
Yeah.
So I would be 100% picking up Braylon Allen right now.
Yeah, he's not practicing. There was, rumors of shutting him down going into last week. He ends up playing. He had 12 touches for 60 yards, zero targets for the first time. No, he had one target, his lowest total all season. Yeah, so I'm definitely being proactive here and picking up Braylon Allen.
Yeah. Okay. Jamie said I took Jaden Reed at 47.5 yards today on DraftKings. Yeah.
Wow.
So when we talked about that line movement, definitely must have moved. And that's great value there, Jamie. So I like that a lot. Emiliano said, currently have Ertz and Disley. Should I pick up Pat Fryermuth or Tucker Kraft on waivers, given I'll probably roll with Ertz later or just stick with Disley? Um, I like Disley a lot this week. He
Yeah.
goes up against Kansas City, who just gave up a monster game to Brock Bowers. I know it sounds risky because Disley didn't have a catch last week, but this is a Chargers offense that's sputtering, and it looks like Lad McConkey might not play.
Yeah.
Very, very strong possibility he does not play. So I'm comfortable sticking with Disley and Ertz. I mean, I would actually drop Ertz for Kraft.
Hmm.
I mean, I know Ertz is like old reliable, but he's always going to be on waivers. That's what I always say. He's always going to be on waivers kind of guy. Like to me, Kraft and Disley are fine to roll with rest of the season. I mean maybe Fryermuth, but I'm definitely sticking with Disley.
Yeah, I'm with you on Disley. And even this week in particular, you get the matchup. Again, I'm not in love with this Chargers offense without J.K. Dobbins, but somebody's going to be targeted. And if Ladd sits, Disley has a game this year with 11 targets back in week 7 against Arizona. Like, I don't know if there's another wide receiver in this wide receiver room who's going to command that target share and has that trust of the quarterback right now. Like, you're going to trust Quentin Johnston after a few weeks ago? Like, I think Disley might be the target leader this week.
Yeah, I could definitely see it for sure. I'm just going to remind you guys again, use promo code FFSN, get $7 for your first month on Be Better, which is the tool that we've been using during this show. I just dropped the link below. We're going to continue answering your fantasy questions. We might get back into some betting shortly. I'm going to answer Emiliano, who said also Murray or Baker this week. Am I crazy for considering Jacoby Myers with Kupp, CeeDee Lamb, and Evans on my lineup? So I think Anthony has a lean on Jacoby Myers. I don't know if he'd pick him over these three, but why don't we answer the quarterback question first? Murray or Baker? Murray has a tough matchup against Seattle. He is at home, but last time they played, this offense didn't look great. And then you have Baker, who Bucks are playing the
Tampa's getting Vegas.
right. I'm going
They're
with Baker. I'm
See,
sorry.
I'm worried about Mike Evans. If Mike Evans sits, like I get he's produced without him. The Raiders defense is not bad. Right? Like I think this is going to be a strong running game. Like this game kind of might fall out like the Giants 2 weeks ago. Like Baker threw for like 294, but I don't think he threw for a touchdown. It was like a run dominant football game. That's how I see this game playing out.
So you
Especially if there's no Mike Evans. I might go Kyler because I think that game, it was in Seattle. That's a tough place to play. Like, I feel more comfortable. Like I said, we talked about the Be Better lean on the over in this matchup and how many points are scored between these two teams in Arizona.
okay?
And Kyler historically, I think last time out was an outlier. He normally averages over 21 fantasy points per game, where Geno Smith in these matchups, he's right around that 14, 15 mark.
Yeah, Kyler just seems off, man. I know he's produced. He's been super up and down in fantasy. Baker, even if Mike Evans is out, the reason I would prefer him is just because even with the weapons down, Baker showed us this year that he could play well, and this is a team that needs to win. They
Yeah.
can't get punked by the Raiders this week. So now to answer the next part of the question, Jacoby Myers, Cup, CeeDee Lamb, Evans, are you considering sitting any of these receivers for Jacoby Myers? I don't think I can. I like Jacoby Myers this week a lot, but I don't think I can sit any of them unless
Evans might not
CeeDee
play, and CD Lamb's dealing with a shoulder.
I
So
was just about to say, I need to see a full practice from Evans and CeeDee Lamb, or else I would be fine pivoting to Jacoby. I don't want this limited, and then questionable, and then we get a game time, and we find out Sunday morning.
I mean, if we like, I kind of like what I saw out of Aiden O'Connell enough, and Myers. The matchup is there against Tampa.
Hmm.
Like that matchup is one of the easiest ones. He's had back-to-back games over 15 PPR points. He's actually gone over 15 PPR points in 3 out of his past 4 games. He's had over 11 targets in 3 out of his past 4 games. And some of these were tough matchups. Miami, Denver, KC, and now it like opens up against Tampa. Like, I don't know who I'd sit. Maybe, one of your Evans or CeeDee Lamb, maybe they sit because they're hurt. But I would try to find a way to get Jacoby Myers in my lineup. Like, I might just flat out sit Evans for Myers, even if he's active. 2 lower body injuries. And I know, like, you're normally the guy who's more afraid of re-injury than I am.
Yeah.
I'm concerned of re-injury of Evans if he's active, because he got a calf and the hamstring that he already missed time with. And I think even last week he was a little bit nicked up and out of the game for a minute.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. Let's check back later
Yeah.
on in the week. We'll be live tomorrow. We'll be live Friday. We'll be live Sunday. We might even be live on Saturday. So stick with us. Luckily, none of these guys play on Thursday. There's no Friday or Saturday game. So give us some time to kind of see what these injury reports look like, and then and pop back in here Sunday morning or Friday night, and we'll probably have a more clear answer for you. Chris, I'm just going to call you Chris, said, sit one, Tracy, Isaac Garendo, Amari Cooper, or Brees Hall. I think you got to sit Isaac Garendo. I could understand maybe sitting Amari Cooper, but it's a good matchup against the Rams, and I just need to see what goes on with Keon Coleman and Dalton Kincaid. If those guys are down, I want Amari Cooper. But if those guys are up, I could be swayed into benching Cooper and starting the 3 of these guys. Isaac Garendo gets the Bears. That's a really good matchup for running backs right now.
Yeah. Cooper would probably be the odd man out. What about Brees if he's active? Again, we just talked about there is a concern. He got a limited workload last week. Now, Miami's a really good matchup against running backs. That's the thing that's alluring about him. Cooper, I have him as a sit this week in my start sit video that's going to drop probably tonight. Last week, only 26 snaps. I get it. They didn't have to use him, but he's still coming off that injury. Like, when are we going to get him unleashed? I just don't trust that situation. Like, I think Amari Cooper's there for the postseason. Like, I don't know if we're going to get an unleashed Amari Cooper, maybe against Detroit. Maybe they're like, do they need to, hey, we're going to give you a full workload against the Rams? Like, they should be able to handle the Rams. I don't know. But this guy has yet to play more than 35 snaps, and he played 26 against San Francisco. Again, it was a blowout. They didn't have to, but he's been outside of that game 1 against Houston where he scored, or Tennessee where he scored. He's been under 7.5 PPR points and under 3 targets.
Yeah, I get it. I think I'm sitting Cooper, and let's see what happens with the injury report with Brees Hall, and see what these Bills receivers look like, and we'll take it from there. I do want to share one thing, and then we'll get to the rest of the questions. This is the highest on the screen, the highest scoring Best Ball Mania lineup currently. We have an elite quarterback, Jalen Joe Burrow. This team went elite quarterback, hero wide receiver. They went Jamar Chase, and then they punted and took Terry probably in round 5 or 6. They went robust at running back. They took A-Chain, Saquon, Mixon, Chase Brown, and Bucky, and they completely punted the tight end position. This is the highest scoring best ball lineup. Zach Ertz has actually been pretty solid for this team, giving him filler points every week too.
But when you have the rest of this lineup,
Yeah.
and again, like all the best ball bros out there, whatever you want to call them, it's like you only need 2 quarterbacks if you do this. You need 9 million wide receivers. You only need 2 tight. Like, look at this roster right now. Early quarterback. They actually invested probably 2 single-digit round picks on Hurts and Burrow. Jaden Daniels, maybe 10th, 11th round. Achane and Barkley. How did you get? Chase is probably the first round pick. Second round pick, we're probably looking at Achane or Barkley. So it looks like Jalen Hurts probably fell to the 4th round in this build.
Yeah,
because it probably went
well, I was going to say there was a time where A-Chain was falling to the 3rd.
Yeah.
There was a time where he started to back up into the 3rd, and then he came back in and settled into the 2nd.
The big values, Mixon and Chase Brown and Bucky are the possibly 3 biggest running back values in fantasy football this year. McLaurin was nice. Like Downs, the big, you hit on Downs and Mooney. Even Jameson, probably a 9th round pick. So you literally hit on everything, whoever this is, Mathology.
And Tolbert gave you 59, which again, in a week you needed him. He gave you, he must have had him in the weeks that Tolbert actually produced. So just wanted to kind of share that. I think as a wake-up call, this is going to be a very interesting offseason. We had a lot of, and I fell into it, and Anthony has always been a running back heavy guy, and he fell into it a little bit too. Everybody went wide receiver heavy this year, and it burnt us. The running backs are the guys that are staying healthy this year. It is absolutely crazy how healthy running backs have been this year.
And yes, I fell into it. This was like I was never a 0 running back guy, and I did it on quite a few builds. I went out of my comfort zone. I even drafted, and Hoff can attest to this. I was always I punted tight end. Because I was always good at identifying, I'm just going to draft guys with high volume upside. This year, especially in FFPC, high stakes tight end premium, I went early tight end to fucking burn me. And here's how true this is. My best FFPC team, my 2 tight ends are Dalton Schultz and Isaiah Likely. And this team it has Burrow. My running backs it's running back heavy. My best receivers, Nico Collins, was a 3rd round pick. So it is my old school build that carried my best FFPC team. Punt the tight end, get a mid-round quarterback. All of these narratives that we hear in fantasy football, and now we see this on that Mathology Best Ball Mania team, where all these theories that out there kind of bullshit.
Yep. And it's going to be a very interesting offseason. I'm very interested to see how things go. Bear Fan Pete said, "What's up, guys? Hope everyone's doing well." Yeah, man. Thanks for dropping in. Hoff said, "Death, taxes, and Anthony punting the tight end position." All right, let's answer a couple more questions. We'll round out, maybe get another bet in or 2, and then we'll close this thing out. I know I said it before. I will say it again. I just dropped the link, or I'm sorry, I will drop the link in below. Use promo code FFSN to get your first month at Be Better for $7 a month. On the first month, you'll be with us, hang out. We'll be doing odds and taking our best bets, doing more live shows, doing more betting. Steve does a lot of betting as well. Get in on this. It's a really good tool, really good app, and we're going to start to continue promoting them going forward. So let's jump into our next question here from Christian. Christian said, Mahomes or Jordan Love, Chargers D or Dolphins D? I have Brees also. Yeah, I mean, Chargers defense over the Dolphins. I think I think both of them are probably going to provide a solid floor. I think the Chargers have more upside. I don't think the Dolphins defense has a ton of upside. Jets don't get sacked a ton, which is actually crazy. It looks like Rodgers is always getting hit, but he actually does. They're like at the lowest in the league for sack rate. So I would go Chargers defense, and then between Mahomes or Love, I think I go Jordan Love.
Love against Detroit, and Mahomes gets the Chargers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I might lean Jordan Love here because Mahomes has been playing well, but this Chargers defense, I think, is going to be what has to keep them in this football game. So I think Harbaugh is going to bring it this week with his defense.
Yeah, I think so as well. This is they I mean they need to win. This will be an interesting week. They lose to Kansas City and Denver wins. Well, Denver actually has a bye, but if they lose, they're tied with Denver, and then
Yep.
Denver and the Chargers square off. Could be a pivotal next week or so for this division. And I don't know, highest point total on the week. I like Jordan Love in that matchup. I know Detroit's been tough, but they can be had in the secondary if there's a
Mhm.
spot. Seabass Supreme, I'm just going to say that, said stream Cade York this week, or should I swoop on Will Reichard since he's practicing again? That's more of a Hoff question. Hoff, if you are still here, feel free to answer this question. I think he likes Reichard, though. I did ask him because I had a kicker question, and I know he likes Reichard this week. So I would lean
Is
Reichard, but
Riker back?
he's practicing. He's practicing. So we'll see. They said he was expected to come back this week anyway. Joz Whedon over on Twitch said Beeb trying to figure out Abaconda had ever been exposed or just recently. So it sounds like you're just saying, and then you said Shanny maybe had liked him but unsure, and then Patrick just never looked too great, or what that coach usually likes. Yeah, I mean, I this is probably like the last shot for Izzy Abaconda, the guy from the Jets.
Mhm.
Got a lot of hype in the offseason. 1 year fizzled out. They cut him, and he didn't really find another team. And now he finds himself in San Francisco. Maybe there's some juice there. Not really sure. We know that this offense likes pass protectors, guys that can protect the quarterback. And with Trent Williams down, they probably emphasize that more than ever because of the leakiness in their tackles. So Izzy, I would say maybe a dynasty pickup. Maybe it's worth it. I don't know unless you're in a 14-man league. I don't know if I'd probably roll with Patrick, the other guy. In my opinion, he looked good. I know Hoff and us had that argument yesterday. He looked solid with the opportunities he was given.
And this is just what for a pickup?
Yeah. I think he's just saying, trying to figure out if he should get him or not. Pretty
I
much is
would
what he was
probably,
saying.
I'd rather get Patrick Taylor or even Keyshawn Vaughn because they've been there. We don't know, if they're going to use Israel Abanikanda. He has not been on the 49ers. At least both Vaughn and Patrick Taylor have some experience this season on that football team.
Yeah. He said always dynasty. So yeah, I don't think it's a bad dynasty pickup. If he shows some flashes, maybe he finds himself in an opportunity somewhere else next year. Jonathan Mateo said Bucks or Titans defense this week and in the playoffs. Give me the Titans this week. Trevor Lawrence is out. They are home as well, and it's the lowest point total on the week. I do think they could find themselves ahead in this game, and that could lead to maybe some Mac Jones interceptions, some sacks. Give me the Titans. I worry about this Bucks defense. They don't get a lot of sacks. I know I listed them as a good opportunity to pick up and stash, but they just lost their starting safety in Whitehead. This is a talentless defense. They're not very talented, and they have a lot of injuries. So give me the Titans. I don't know what their playoff schedule looks like, but I prefer them this week, and I think you're okay to drop the Bucks unless there's not really much else out there in terms of the playoffs. I like the Colts too.
Titans or Chargers. I asked you this already, but this is for me in my FFPC championship.
So now that Lawrence is ruled out, I prefer the Titans for the upside. If you're looking for a safer play, go with the Chargers. I think the Chargers provide a safer floor, but if you need upside, I would go with the Titans.
I just need, probably upside would be nice, but probably more floor.
Yeah. So if you're going for floor, go with the Chargers. The Chiefs tackles dog shit. He has not played well. The
Yeah.
left tackle. And Mahomes has thrown interceptions. I mean, he's played well, but he's turning the ball over this year. I mean, it's not like he can't
Yeah.
be had that way. And this Chargers defense has played really well. Seabass said, Cup, Mooney, and Myers. Which two should I start? I would go with Cup and Myers. I'll roll with Anthony with the Myers lean here. Darnell Mooney, it's crazy how much he fell off. He was like a top 15 wide receiver for like 9 weeks into the year, and he's kind of fallen off a little bit the last few weeks.
But that's more of to me. That's not Mooney. That's more on Kirk Cousins
Oh
falling
yeah,
off. But
absolutely.
yeah, again, I like Mooney, but he's more of a volatile, like boom bust play. Like I'd rather bet on Mooney than insert him in my fantasy lineup over those two guys you have. If that makes
Absolutely.
sense.
Yeah. I'm with you there. Jonathan also came back and said Judy, Ladd, Cup, Higgins, Smith, or Dunze. Which three do I start? It doesn't look like Ladd's gonna play. If I think it's Cup, it's Higgins, and then I keep forgetting the Eagles get.
They get Carolina.
Yeah, I would go with Devonta Smith. I'd roll with that. Judy gets Pittsburgh. I know he fucking had an amazing game this week, but I worry that Pittsburgh defense could fuck them up a little bit.
Especially after losing a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and they're at home.
I would go if Ladd's playing, I would roll the dice, but if he's
Me too.
out, I would go Cup, Higgins, Smith.
Yeah, I would sit Smith if Ladd is
Yeah.
playing. I agree. You agree?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Seabass said Titans or Miami defense. Give me the Titans. I think they're still safe enough. Miami, Miami's probably middle of the pack. They're going to give you. They're probably going to have be finished 14, 12, 10 to 14 this week, I think. Okay. So that answers all our questions. I'm going to flash some of the bets in here. Anthony liked the over at 46.5 in this Seattle game versus the Cardinals. You can see on the screen here some of the odds at the different sports books and where they think the fair value is. That's at plus 133, 1.74 EV. Then we took Drake London at 4.08 anytime touchdown score. He's plus 187 at Bet365. Really good odds here. Anthony thinks he might even take Kirk Cousins 2 touchdowns. We'll talk a little bit more about it during this week. Drew Lock, anytime touchdown scorer, scored a touchdown last week, almost had 2 touchdowns. He's plus 700 at Bet365. When you look at Pinnacle, which is a sharp book, the experts use Pinnacle because they don't limit bettors, even if they play, all these smaller books, commercial books like Bet365, DraftKings, FanDuel, they limit players when they start to play really well. Pinnacle does not. So that's where all of the pros bet, and they have them at plus 385. So they think there's a much better shot than Bet365. So it's good value there. And then I think that was it for those. We like David Montgomery over 14.5. We also talked Jaden Reed. I think we were going to stay away from that. I don't think we picked a lean there, but I think for now we'll probably agree we'll stay away from it. But I think that's probably going to wrap up here, guys. Again, if you are watching the show, we are partnering again with Be Better. Gets your first month on them for $7. That's a really good value. It's normally a $30 a month membership. Use code FFSN. I'm dropping the link one more time below. It'll take you straight there with our code already punched in. Anthony, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, and Be Better, there are other plus EV tools out there. Be Better is the best priced one. There are push notifications sent to your phone. I used to use some of the competitors out there, and you're not going to find a better price plus EV tool. Plus, there's other line movement tools that have the odd screen that can show you odd movements, line movements. The bankroll tells you how much you should be betting according to your bankroll. So you get a lot of bang for your buck, and you get to try it for $7 on the first month.
Yeah, and like we said, they have all leagues. MLB is my favorite sport to bet on. NFL, they're constantly updating. This one actually just got thrown in here. Jameis Winston over point 0.5
Mm,
touchdowns. It says it's at
no,
40. That can't be right. There's no way. It says there's no way that's right. If that's right, we got to put that in right now. So let me check FanDuel really quick. That's a
no,
one
that's
touch. Does that say one touchdown?
is that a rushing touchdown?
I don't know. Let me take a look here. It might be a rushing. It's got to be a rushing touchdown. It is a rushing
But
touchdown.
even so, that's not bad.
1,300.
Yeah,
He's plus 450 on Bet365. I'm gonna go ahead and
I'm
sprinkle.
checking that too.
Yeah, let me take a look while we're here live. But again, this is again part of why we're promoting this tool with Be Better. Perfect example here. You can get.
And
Go
I
ahead.
say plus EV betting, you got to be fast because if that discrepancy is not going to last long.
It's
That's
true.
why we are on our phones jumping on this now.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I can't find it. Usually if you're on the actual phone app, you can actually be taken directly to it. I don't see it anymore. So it might have went up and maybe they took it down like immediately. Um, that's very possible as well. That's how quick sometimes these things
Mhm.
happen. But yeah, I mean, like Anthony said, there's a lot of different cool things in here. You can look at the lines, you can get really intricate in here, or if you just want some good plays EV wise, it's just a good place to come and just a good place to just check out. Like if you have a couple of sports books and you like to price shop, maybe you don't care about being flagged and all these things, but it's good to at least get a look and see like
Yeah.
Drake London. Okay, you have both FanDuel and Hard Rock and Caesars. Okay, and Bet365. Let me go over to Bet365 before I put a bet in. I always do that every time now with this app. I will always check and just see where the lines are. If I know me and Anthony talk about a play that I like, I'll go and check it out and just say, hey, what are the lines at other books before I even place the bet?
Mhm.
So I think we've gone over it enough. We've been here for an hour and 11 minutes. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed the show. If you have questions, feel free to reach out. You can even drop a question in the comment section below once this closes out. We'd be happy to answer it if it's fantasy football related, if it's about the Be Better app, whatever you want. We're going to continue to show off this tool. And yeah, we appreciate you guys watching. Anthony, got anything else?
No, we'll be back tomorrow night. But tonight, the mediators will be on.
Mm,
Buy, sell, hold dynasty. So make sure you check them out. We'll be back tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern. We'll see you later.